This is a video lesson for learning how to add and subtract rational functions. First, we're going to go over just a couple basic concepts, adding and subtracting. You should know this already. Definition: to add two fractions, you have to have a common denominator. And when you do, you add the numerators together and divide by that same common denominator. So a plus b all over the common denominator c. Do not add the denominators together, you only add the numerators together. And they go underneath that one common denominator. So, for instance, 5 21st plus 3 21st, 5 plus 3 all over 21. Do not make that 42, is 8 over 21. So how does that apply to our algebra? Well, if I have two algebraic expressions, two rational functions, and I need to add these two together, I can see I already have common denominators, so I'm simply going to take the two numerators, I'm going to add them together. 2 plus the quantity of x minus 3. Now, when you see a quantity in the numerator, it has to be in parentheses. Now, we're going to just simplify this. 2 plus negative 3 when I combine the like terms. 2 plus a minus or negative 3 makes negative 1. So I end up with x comes down, 2 minus 3 is minus 1, x minus 1 all over the common denominator of x plus 2. Notice we don't do anything with the denominator. As far as adding and subtracting, we just simply put the numerators together over top of one common denominator. Let's go ahead and scroll down. Same thing works for subtraction, the same way as we would do with addition. So, same exact problem, only have a minus sign in between, and this is why the parentheses is important. So I have common denominators. I would do 2 minus the quantity of x minus 3. 2 minus that second numerator as a quantity, x minus 3. So 2 minus x, but I'm distributing that negative because the minus applies to this whole numerator. So the minus applies to the x, but it also applies to the negative 3. So I'm distributing that in, making this plus 3. So 2 plus 3 is 5 minus x comes down. 2 plus 3 is 5 minus x comes down all over the common denominator of x plus 2. Okay, now of course we're not going to keep common denominators. What happens if I have two denominators that are not the same? And I have these notes here, pretty detailed if you want to go into it and look at it and read it in a lot of detail. That'd be great. I'm going to highlight the important parts here. So what I'm starting with is two totally different denominators, x plus 2 and x plus 3. Not the same at all. Don't tell me they share an x. This is not an x. This is a quantity of x plus 2. Now I know it's not in parentheses, but it is grouped in this denominator, so this is a grouping. X plus 2 has to stay as one grouping. The x and the 2 are not separate pieces. Same thing here with this x plus 3. So they don't share anything because they're two totally different quantities. Also, don't try to start canceling stuff like the x's. We learned multiple times now that you have to cancel factors, so we can't cancel anything here. All I have is two denominators that are totally different. So what do I do with these denominators? I'm going to try to make common denominators. So this side has x plus 2, this left side. So we're going to focus in right here, this work. The left fraction, in order for these two denominators to be the same, this side needs an x plus 3. So I'm going to give the left fraction an x plus 3 because that's what this denominator is. So we're basically using this denominator and multiplying it top and bottom on this side. So we're going to make a common denominator by multiplying top and bottom by x plus 3. Over here needs the x plus 2 because that's what this denominator is. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by x plus 2. So what we've created then is a common denominator, x plus 2, x plus 3. This right fraction also has x plus 2 and x plus 3. So in this numerator, I have x plus 3 times x plus 3. So we distribute that out, x squared, 3x, and 9. So when we distribute that numerator out, I get x squared plus 6x plus 9. And there's my common denominator. Both of them. On the right side, I have x plus 2 times x plus 2. Well, that's x squared plus 4x plus 4 when you distribute it out. So now I've simplified and made common denominators. So now I have something that's more complicated, but I have the same denominator. Now that I have my denominators, we're going to go ahead and subtract. So we're going to take this left numerator minus the right numerator. The left numerator minus the right numerator. So that minus sign right here, I need to distribute that in to all three parts of this parentheses. So what I have is x squared plus 6x plus 9, okay, minus x squared, minus 4x, and minus 4. Watch your signs there. Now we'll just do a little simplifying. X squared minus x squared, those like terms cancel. 6x minus 4x is 2x. 9 minus 4 is 5. We're just combining like terms. So it's 2x plus 5 all over that common denominator of 2x, or x plus 2 and x plus 3. All right, let's take a look at another example. Now it looks like these are totally different denominators for these fractions, but they're not. We know the trick that I can switch the order of this around. So if you ever come across one where it's the same, only in the wrong order with subtraction, I'm simply going to take a -1 out of that denominator and flip it around. So it becomes y minus 1. To make them have common denominators, I guess we could multiply this side by -1, but how about I just take that negative and apply it to the numerator? So I'm going to take that -1 and just apply it to the numerator, so that's -2. Now I have common denominators here and here. So what I'm left with is y plus -2 or y minus 2 all over the common denominator of y minus 1. All right, one more. We have to do some factoring with this. So now these two look like totally different denominators, but they're not quite different because I can factor this right one. This is a conjugate rule. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to say 3 over x plus 2 plus 2 over, and factor this denominator to x plus 2, x minus 2. Now you can see they actually share a factor. So this already has x plus 2 and this has an x plus 2. This has x minus 2, this one does not have x minus 2. So all I have to do is multiply top and bottom by x minus 2 on this left fraction, and I'll have common denominators. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by x minus 2 over here. So that gives me 3 times x minus 2, or 3x minus 6, plus 2 for my numerator, all over my common denominator. And when I distribute 3x minus 6, and then combine the plus 2 with that, I get 3x minus 4. I just distribute and combine like terms. 3x minus 4 all over that common denominator of x plus 2 and x minus 2. We're going to do some more work of this tomorrow. And I know it seems like threw like a bunch of different problems at you just now. But you just need to remember, I need common denominators. So what can I do to make common denominators? And often you'll have to multiply top and bottom of a fraction by something, so that you can get the two denominators to match. And when you multiply, use your algebra skills to multiply and combine like terms. Distribute, combine like terms. Once you get the denominators the same, simplify the numerators by distributing and combining like terms. We'll take a look at some harder ones tomorrow. You have 4 practice problems. Make sure you get on and do those.